Hello everybody and welcome back to Gaming on Caffeine. My name is Isaac and we are back for episode 24 of FTB Infinity Evolved Skyblock. Last episode we were working on setting up an automatic wheat farm using the Mine Factory reloaded machines as well as a little bit of agri-craft. And as you can see, since the end of last episode, the wheat field has just filled in completely, and I've also replicated the system entirely for the soybean farm over here. And you'll notice I've only done a quarter of the farm for soybeans, and we'll get onto that a little bit later on in today's episode. But I did go ahead and breed all of the required seeds to get the soybean seed. If we come over here to my kind of general crop breeding area, which is kind of just this area where we have grass on our platform, if you breed together some rice seeds and some bean seeds, you will get the soybean seeds. They're a bit of a pain to get to in terms of you've got to do quite a bit of crop mutation to get to the soybean seed, but they're not as bad as some of the other seeds that you can make in Pam's Harvest Craft. If we take a look here, the rice seed is just a rye seed and a sugarcane seed, and then rye seed is made with barley and wheat, and then barley is just made with normal vanilla seeds and some sugarcane. And then on the other side of things, to get the bean seed, it's just pumpkin seeds and potato seeds. And if you don't happen to have any pumpkin seeds, you can make those with potato seeds and carrot seeds. So not all too hard in terms of ingredients, but a bit of a time sink in terms of actually getting all of those things and mutating them to form the soybean seed. But we now have it, and we now have a fully functioning quadrant of this soybean farm up and running. And as you can see by this chest, it's doing a pretty good job as well. Neither of these are currently hooked up with fertilizer. There is no fertilizing being done by the fertilizer, but we are going to set that up later on in today's episode. But before that, there are a few more things that I've done since the end of last episode, one of which is something I said I was going to do. I've replaced all of the storage drawers over here with compacting drawers, so we can now pull out blocks or nuggets for any of the ingots that we have over here. And I've also gone ahead and replaced all of our auto compressors in our sifting machine over here with the compacting drawers as well, because the way that this works is it pumps the cobblestone in, and then I can now pull out the cobblestone as either normal cobblestone, compressed cobblestone, or double compressed cobblestone, as you can kind of see at the top there in Whaler. And so what it does now is it has the cobblestone in that compacting drawer, but then the hoppers here will only pull out the normal compressed cobblestone, send it through into the sieves, and then have that go down and do the same thing that it always would. But now it doesn't require any power, and we don't have any excess cobblestone flying all over the place like we did with the old setup. And finally, the last thing that I think I've done since the end of last episode is replace my low pressure steam boiler from Railcraft with a high pressure steam boiler from Railcraft as well. If you look at the recipe, it is exactly the same as the low pressure boiler, but instead it requires steel plates instead of just normal iron plates. And because our logistics pipe system can now just make refined iron for us, all I had to do was request a few stacks of this, put it into the rolling machine, which we have right about here, and that got us this guy right now. This thing is really slow at getting hot. Like right now it's at 591 degrees. It has been running for a solid couple of hours, probably like 3 or 4 hours at this point, and it's only at 592 degrees. So I'm really hoping that we never run out of fuel on this thing, because if we do, it's going to take forever to get our power back up and running. But the good news is that right now it's producing more than enough power to keep all of our steam dynamos, or should I say more than enough steam, to keep all of our steam dynamos full on steam. However, right now we're not actually using that power for anything really. Like, we're not doing any intensive tasks in the assembly table or anything like that. But that is all about to change, because the first thing that I would like to do in today's episode is something that we're going to do later in the episode, but we need to start now because it's going to take a long time, and that is crafting a resonant machine frame. Because in order to craft this, we have to provide the assembly table with 50 million redstone flux, and that's going to take quite a while. I did some calculations, and each one of these produces 40 redstone flux per tick. There are 20 ticks per second in Minecraft, and so right now we're producing about 8,800 redstone flux per second with all of our lasers. That's how much we can transfer into the assembly table, and so it's going to take about an hour and a half to 2.5 hours to actually craft this resonant machine frame with all of the lasers that we currently have, and that's assuming that we have enough power to keep all of these lasers running at max speed throughout the whole of the craft. And so I kind of want to start it now so we can come back to it later on in today's episode and actually use this resonant machine frame to make some stuff. And so to make this, it's actually very similar to the basic machine frame. It's another dense refined iron plate, 2 crushed obsidian, another circuit board, this time intricate instead of basic, I think it is, yeah. But now we need an emerald chipset as well as an enderium gear. I've already gone ahead and gotten all of the 3 items at the top here. They are already in this chest down here in the assembly tables, like internal storage. So let me first of all start by grabbing an emerald and some redstone and start the process of crafting up the emerald chipsets, because that's probably going to take at least a couple of seconds, maybe if not a minute or two, for this thing to actually craft as well, because this thing does require, I think, 120,000 or maybe 1.2 million redstone flux to actually get crafted as well. That's 1.2 million redstone flux just to craft this. Whilst we're waiting for that to craft, let's have a look at making our first piece of enderium, or our first item that uses enderium, the enderium gear. To make this, we can either use enderium ingots in the metal press, or we can put enderium into the Tinker's Construct smelt tray and pull it out in a gear cast. We're probably going to use the enderium ingots in the metal press. To make enderium, it's exactly the same recipe as it's always been. It's some blazing pyrotheum with some enderium blend. Blazing pyrotheum we've made a couple of times in the series so far. We've used it for upgrades and stuff like that. And then the enderium blend is made in a very similar way to the signalum blend or the lumium blend. It's the liquid in a bucket. This time it's resonant ender with some pulverized silver and some pulverized shiny metal. So let's go ahead and grab some ender pearls over here and also grab a bucket or two, throw those into the magma crucible downstairs. Actually, you know what? I'll throw it into this magma crucible over here just so as not to disrupt the one that we have downstairs. So each piece of enderium blend makes one enderium ingot, and we get 4 pieces of enderium blend from the one craft. So for now, we only really need 1 bucket worth of resonant ender to make this enderium gear to make the resonant machine frame. So let's go ahead and put 4 ender pearls in here. If I'm not mistaken, you should get 250 millibuckets of enderium of liquid ender every time you do this. Let's go ahead and throw 4 of those in there. Whilst we're waiting for all of those to craft up, let's go ahead and actually throw the bucket in there just so we can start to transfer through once it's ready. Let's grab 3 blocks of silver, or 3 ingots of silver, as well as 1 shiny metal, and pulverize those up over here in our pulverizer. We do still need to work on our setup over here a little bit. Right now, it's not really as optimal as I would like, because as I've mentioned before, stuff like aluminium and yellorium is still getting backed up in this hopper here because you can't pulverize them. Did I just smelt that again? I flippin' did. Let me turn that off. Let's try that again. Let's grab 3 silver and put that back into the pulverizer here. And also, we also have the same problem we've been having since the beginning of the series, where all the items in these chests are currently not being pumped back around and into the system. They're currently kind of just sitting right about here. I'm still trying to figure out how I want to pump all of that stuff back. What I'll probably end up doing is just reorganizing this whole system so it's a little bit easier to pump items back into our storage drawers over there. But that is a problem for a different episode. For now, let's go ahead and pulverize that up. Let's grab our bucket of resonant ender, and we are pretty much good to go. That emerald chipset is done. Let's throw you back into the assembly table like so. Let's go ahead and grab you, craft all these up in the crafting station. We want pulverized shiny metal, pulverized silver, resonant ender. That didn't get us what we were after because we need, I believe, probably a different dust, I'm guessing. Let's have a look here. We need, 2 tin and 1 silver. Okay, and that's the recipe changed? It might have changed. Let me go ahead and grab 2 tin, though. That's not going to be hard to do. Throw that into the pulverizer, and once that's done, we can stick it into the crafting station, and we get ourselves some enderium blend. Nice. So, as I mentioned earlier, the blazing pyrotheum should be fairly easy to get. We just need some blaze powder, sulfur, I believe, as well as, let's have a look. We need coal powder, sulfur, electrotine, and blaze powder. Let me quickly go ahead and request at least 2 of this coal dust, like so, which shouldn't take all too long. Let's go ahead and grab 2 blaze powder. Let's grab some sulfur from over here, and then grab some electrotine as well. How is our system currently handling all of the stuff? It looks like it's doing fine, although to be fair, again, our assembly table isn't running right now, but it was just running for quite an intensive craft with all of the lasers on, and this steam boiler is still at almost full capacity in terms of the amount of steam that it has. It can also hold a lot more steam as well than the original boiler could. So let's take let's craft all of those up together like so. I'm fairly certain that the crafting recipe is shapeless, which means you can put the items anywhere in the crafting station, and it will work just fine. Let's combine both of those up in the induction smelter like so. And once they finish smelting up, we can take those down to our metal press with the gear cast in it and then make them into a gear, at which point we can put it into the assembly table and then wait like an hour and a half for it to craft. I'm not just going to go away and wait an hour and a half. I'm going to go ahead and work on the food setup that we've got for making power here. So let's just go ahead and throw all 4 of those in there. And that shouldn't take all too long. And then we should be good to go. So, I'm going to make a few changes to our food setup over here. And I mentioned at the beginning of the episode that I've only done a quadrant of this farm in soybean seeds. And that's because, since the end of last episode, people in the comment section have told me that there are much better food items that we can use for power generation other than the hamburger. Most importantly, I think it was beef Wellington, which is a little, again, hard to make. And I'm not going to make this one because it requires a lot more farms than we currently have and a lot more processing than I want to do. But the other one that came up a lot was epic bacon, which is actually not all too hard to make. For the epic bacon, we can again use firm tofu instead of actual cooked pork chops, which is why I have the soybean farm over here on my right. But alongside the firm tofu, we just need a bunch of different colored dyes. Now, we do need to specifically have all of the colors listed here, so like red, yellow, orange, purple, pink, blue, and green. We need to have all of those ones. We can't use any colors that are not listed on that list right there, but thankfully, AgriCraft and a few other mods do add seeds that allow you to grow all of these dyes. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have have quadrants dedicated to all of those dyes. I'm probably going to get rid of most of the wheat farm, and we might have one quadrant left for wheat just for kind of general wheat having purposes in case we need it later on down the line. But for the most part, we're going to get rid of almost all of these wheat farms and replace them instead with some dye farms so we can make some epic bacon and then use that to produce power. Instead, it is quite a bit better than the hamburger that I was going to make in terms of actually making stuff. That's probably back over here. It is. So let's take this enderium here before we get started with our farming. Stick this into the assembly table and get this resonant machine frame up and running. So that is going to take a long time, like a really long time, for that to actually finish what it is doing. But once it's done, that should be pretty good. It might be running out of power. I'm not quite sure. What I might do as well is look into putting some of the upgrades from the steam dynamos downstairs to see just how much we can push the steam boiler in terms of like how much we can get these steam dynamos to make. Because if we can get these up to producing 640 redstone flux per tick, that would be pretty awesome. We would have to go ahead and upgrade all of our flux ducts because right now we're still using hardened flux ducts, which of course can only carry 800 redstone flux per tick max. But if we could get that up and running, that would solve some of our power problems for like this main power source for the time being anyway. So now that that's out of the way, now that that's crafting, you can't even see the red bar. That is going to take a long time to craft. Let's get back and look at the farming situation. So, like I just said, I want to work on crafting up some epic bacon, and for that, we're going to have to make the farms for all of these dyes. And one thing I should point out before we start crafting all the seeds required for those dyes is people did say that we don't need a planter if you have AgriCraft installed, which is entirely true. You can use the system that I have over here where you plant the seeds for crops like wheat directly down onto the dirt, and then have the planter plant the seeds onto the dirt, and then the harvester will harvest them, and then send the seeds back around, the planter will plant them, harvester will harvest them, etc, etc, etc. But what you can do with AgriCraft, because it adds the crop sticks, and the harvester or the planters can't actually plant those crop sticks, what it will do instead is when you right-click a fully grown crop, it will just take the harvest off of it. So in this case, it's a soybean. In this case, it would be the wheat. It will take the wheat off of it, and then keep the seed planted, so you don't have to replant it for it to grow again. Pretty cool stuff. So let's go ahead and just throw that in there for now, and let's take a look at getting all of these seeds, because most of them are fairly easy. We already have the poppy seeds, and we already have the dandelion seeds. I think they're probably in this chest over here. We are going to need quite a few poppy and dandelion seeds, because we're also going to use these. Whereabouts is that other one? Is it in the system somewhere? Because we're also going to use red and yellow to make orange later on down the line, because I don't think there is any kind of orange flower. Why can I not make this? Oh, I'm looking for rose red, that's why. Poppy, there it is. Let's go ahead and take this guy. The only recipe for orange is, oh no, we can make an orange tulip. Okay, we're going to make an orange tulip instead. So most of these, for like dandelion yellow and rose red, we're going to use the seeds we just got from AgriCraft. For the orange, we're going to use that orange tulip right there. For pink, I think we're also going to use an allium tulip, or the allium seed, which is also from AgriCraft. We're going to craft that up. Most of these are made by doing some more crop breeding with the AgriCraft seeds themselves. For example, if we take a poppy seed, which, as we know from earlier in the series, is made with a pumpkin seed and a sugarcane seed, we can then use that to crossbreed into the allium seed for the magenta dye. For the green dye, we're going to have to do a bit of a cactus farm and use cactus to make cactus green by smelting it up and then using it that way. Blue dye is going to be a bit of a weird one. We'll come back to that because there's no way to make blue dye seeds, but we can use lapis lazuli, and so we're actually going to start growing some lapis lazuli later on in today's episode. And then finally, magenta up here is just a combination of red and blue. So what I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to go away here. I'm going to do a bunch of crop breeding so we can get the seeds for the red, yellow, orange, and pink dye, and I'll be back in a second. And quite a bit of crop breeding later, we now have all of the seeds required to make 6 out of the 8 dyes that we need to make the epic bacon. We have the poppy seeds over here, which are of course going to get us the red dye. We have the dandelion seeds, which are going to get us the yellow dye. We have the orange tulip seeds, which are of course going to get us the orange dye. We have the allium seeds, which are going to get us the pink dye. And then we have these cactus seeds, which are going to get us the cactus green. And actually, if you're wondering where I got these seeds, because the default seeds that you get from Ex Nihilo, when you sift sand, you get cactus seeds. These ones over here are not actually from AgriCraft, they're actually from Ex Nihilo, and so don't work natively with the crop sticks. But what you can do is you can craft the Ex Nihilo seeds directly into AgriCraft cactus seeds, and then you can plant those down just like any other kind of AgriCraft plant. And when you harvest these, you actually get cactus green directly, and so you don't have to smelt cactus in order to get cactus green. Pretty cool stuff. And just like everything else, it doesn't pick up the actual seed when you do that, it just picks up the produce itself. So the only seed that we're missing now is the lapis seed. That's going to get us the blue dye, and also combined with the red dye is going to get us the purple dye. So if we go ahead again and look at the recipe for epic bacon, and we look at what we can use, there are a couple of things, but blue dye requires getting into bees and going quite far down the forest route. I don't know how to do that. There's no recipe for that Project Red item. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use this recipe right here, which uses lavender seeds to produce lapis lazuli if you have some farmland beneath it, and then lapis lazuli ore beneath that. Now, the keen-eyed among you may have noticed at the beginning of today's episode that I had some lapis lazuli ore in my induction smelter, and that is because what you can do is, if I quickly get rid of some of this stuff in my inventory, because I do not need anywhere near all of this junk. Let me get rid of like all this stuff, and we'll put the ender pearls in there for now. We'll get rid of the dirt as well. If we grab, for instance, some lapis lazuli and some smelted stone from this chest over here, and we stick both of those into the induction smelter, that will actually go ahead and smelt into lapis lazuli ore, or at least, oh no, we won't. What you have to do is you have to craft that lapis lazuli up into a block of lapis lazuli like so, and then if you combine that up with some stone, that will produce lapis lazuli ore, and if we put that underneath some dirt, underneath those lavender seeds, we can actually grow lapis lazuli. So, in order to make the lavender seeds, we have to breed together some pink tulip seeds and some blue orchid seeds. I'm pretty sure I just put blue orchids into this chest over here. I did. As for pink tulips, I'm not quite sure what we need for those. Let's have a look. To get pink tulips, we need to combine allium and dandelion, which is actually fairly easy to do. Let me just go ahead and quickly grab one allium, and you'll also notice I haven't filled the fields with all of these seeds, and we'll get to why I haven't done that in just a second, but it's definitely a bad idea to go right out of the gate and try and fill them all up with these basic seeds, because we are going to upgrade these seeds to make the best possible seeds that we can get in just a second. So let's go ahead and throw down allium, combine that up with some dandelion, and then if we do something like this and quickly grab a little bit more bone meal, that should get us some of the pink ones, was it? And after a couple of attempts at mutation, we did get the pink tulip seeds, so let's go ahead and take those. And now I think, in order to get the lapis seeds, I think we are going to have the lapis ore actually underneath this farmland as well. So let's go ahead and put the pink tulip on one side. Let's put the blue on the other. Let's make sure those are both fully grown. Let's pick up this dirt for now, and let's see about putting that block of lapis ore underneath it. We should now have a couple of blocks of lapis ore over here. We are going to have to make 49 of these if we want to fill up a complete quadrant with lapis seeds, which is what we want to do to get as much blue dye as is possible. But let's just go ahead and for now stick this down, let's say right about there, like that. Now, if we fly on back up to the top, let me quickly grab a piece of dirt on the way so we can have some farmland to actually breed the seeds on. We should be able to breed these two crops together and mutate them into the lapis seeds that we were just looking at. So, let's go ahead and give this a try. And we did. It didn't take all that long at all. We now have some lavender seeds, which, if we put in one of the slots over here, let's have a look. Where do I want to put this? It's probably going to go in, like, this quadrant over here. I've taken the upgrade, by the way, out of the planter, so the planter can no longer plant outside of this little 3x3 area here. It can't plant on sand, which is why it can't plant here, and then it can't plant here, because, of course, we have the allium seeds already set up there. But let's just go ahead and test this out real quick. What I should be able to do now is quickly throw on hover mode, put lapis down right about there. Let's just do like all three of those like so. Did they go down? Yeah, they did. Put all three of those down like that, turn off hover mode, and now we can go ahead and throw down these lapis seeds like so, and that will start to grow lapis for us, and when harvested, will produce lapis lazuli, which we can then use either as blue dye or in combination with the red dye from the poppy seeds in order to make the purple dye. And that is all 8 of the dyes required to make the epic bacon now taken care of. So all we need to do now is fill in these fields with all of these seeds and make them as good as they can possibly be, so that we can get as much like dye from every single crop as possible. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to do some agricraft. It's more agricraft mutation, but this time we're not mutating 2 plants together to get a different plant. This time what we're going to do is we're going to mutate the same plant with itself to make it a stronger breed of that same plant, if that makes sense. You'll understand in a second once I show you how we're going to do it. So if we go ahead and type in agricraft again over here, the first thing we need to do is make ourselves a seed analyzer. This thing is super easy to make. It's 3 sticks, 2 wooden planks, 1 slab of any kind by the looks of things, 1 wooden slab, and then 1 glass pin. All of that stuff should be fairly easy to get, so let's just go ahead and for now grab like a bunch of wood. We've got some cobblestone slabs lying around over here. We'll take 1 of those, and then glass, I think, is in like this chest up here. It isn't, but we have glass panes, and that will do just fine. So let's come over here. Let's craft that up into a slab. Put the slab in the middle. Put these 2 at the bottom. And move that slab to the bottom where it belongs. Put that at the top, and then put the sticks that we're about to craft around the side like so. Boom, 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 and that gets us a seed analyzer. Nice. So we're going to take this down and we're going to put it on the platform down here. And as the name suggests, this is used to analyze seeds. So, for example, if I was to take one of these poppy seeds over here and put it through the seed analyzer, it would analyze it and say that it has growth 1, gain 1, and strength 1. So it's the basic flower. This is how all seeds start out. And we can increase these stats up to 10, 10, 10 so that it grows faster. If we get growth up to 10, it will grow faster than a normal poppy seed would. Gain, if we get that up to 10, will increase the amount of red dye that you get when you harvest those poppy seeds. And then finally, strength, I believe, is to do with weeds, which by default in Feed the Beast Infinity Evolved Skyblock are turned off, so not really something to worry about for us. So let's give this a try. If we put down some more herd land over here and we do the same thing that we've been doing before, we'll put one poppy seed on one side. Let me take another one. Actually, we don't need to take another one. We've got 29 vent tray. But let's go ahead and scan another one. I know for a fact these are both going to be just one poppy seeds. Actually, I should probably just go ahead and scan all of these so that they all stack nicely. And now, if I take these 1-1 poppy seeds and do something like this, if I surround this, let me quickly turn off mob sounds. Wow, those are annoying. If we go ahead and surround this double crop stick with poppy seeds like so, and make sure that these are all fully grown, like so, what will happen is when we go ahead and force this middle one to grow, it will become a mutation of all the ones around it. And so now, if we were to take this one and go and scan it, I don't think I picked that up because my inventory is just full of junk right now. Let me get rid of all that and pick up this poppy seed. Now, if we come and scan this one, it should be a little bit stronger than the rest. You can see this one is now growth 2, gain 3, and strength 3. And so now, if we were to come back over and do this again, let's say this time we get rid of this one and instead use the new one that we've got, which is stronger and faster than the rest of them, and then do the same thing again like this, and again mutate it, get another seed, and then break it and go scan it. This one should be even stronger, and the process kind of continues on and on and on until you get up to 10, 10, 10. It's not always going to be stronger. Sometimes it might take more of the traits from the weaker ones in the group. As you can see, this one is up to now gain 5, and so what I'm going to do now, guys, I'm going to go away and again do a little bit more of kind of this grindy agri-craft stuff. I'm going to try and get one of each crop to 10, 10, 10, and then once I've got that, I'll show you how we can duplicate the 10, 10, 10 seed to make sure that we have a full farm of 10, 10, 10 to have like the most effective, efficient, and highest yield fields that we can possibly have. Okay, so again, quite a bit of mutation later, and I now finally have a 10-10-10 poppy seed. I don't have any of the rest of them yet, but I do have a 10-10-10 poppy seed. A few tips when you're doing this, if I was you, I'd go ahead and throw away any seeds that you're not currently using. For example, if you get a better seed to replace one of your seeds, like these right now, I don't need these, and especially when you're doing crop breeding, if the seeds have different values for growth, strength, and gain, then they don't stack, and so you could very quickly end up with an inventory just full of poppy seeds that you're not actually planning to use. And so like I said, I just recommend getting rid of all of those, which is why earlier in the episode I recommended not getting a ton of those really early on and instead waiting until you had the most optimal version, this 10-10-10 one. And now that we've got that, what we can do, we can plant it down, we can make it fully grown like that, we can get it to maturity, and then all we need to do is grab ourselves some clippers, again from AgriCraft. These are made using a piece of iron, some shears, and 2 sticks. So again, super easy stuff to make. Let's just come over here and grab ourselves 3 iron ingots, 1, 2, 3, as well as a little bit of wood, and then we can come over, craft all those together. We don't really need that slab anymore. Take those out, get ourselves a shear, and then craft all of those together into some clippers. I was going to say nice, but we didn't get any clippers for some reason. Probably because the shears don't stack. One day I'll learn what items do and don't stack and when to shift click and when to not. But now that we have some clippers, what you can do is if you make sure that these are fully grown, you can go ahead and clip them. And what you'll do is you'll get this little bank here, rose red clippings, and these all share the same properties of the seed you just planted because they're the same plant. So they'll have growth, gain, and strength 10. And what you can do is you can just plant these down anywhere else in the world, and you now have another poppy seed, which again, if you look at the top there, now has growth 10, gain 10, and strength 10. You can do this over and over and over again. And eventually you'll end up with a field full of 10-10 flowers of whichever kind you're using from AgriCraft. And basically what I'm going to do now, guys, I'm going to go away. This process is a little bit grindy, getting them up to 10-10-10. It does take quite a bit of time and it's not particularly interesting. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to go away. I'm going to do this same process for my dandelions, for my orange tulips, and for all of the other flowers that we're going to use in the crafting of this epic bacon, so we can get them all up to 10-10-10. You can see right now, even without the fertilizer, these things are growing pretty fast. So with the fertilizer, they'll grow even faster. But yeah, I'm going to go away. I'm going to do the same thing to all the rest of the flowers, fill in all the fields with 10-10-10 seeds. I'll be back in a second. Okay, so way too long later, I have finally managed to fill every single quadrant with its respective seed, and I managed to get every single one of them up to the maximum at 10, 10, 10 for growth, gain, and strength, and I've also gone ahead and set up 8 of these caches over here from Thermal Expansion to store all of the items that are required from all of these farms over here. Right now, they're not actually running, or they're kind of running in like this little bit of an area in front of them because the harvesters do not have their upgrades in, but if I was to go ahead and do something like this, it should pretty quickly go ahead and start to harvest all of those items, apart from the fact that it's not going to harvest them all so quickly because the harvesters are currently full on sludge. And for those who are unaware, when a harvester is full on sludge, it starts to work a lot slower than it normally would, and this idle tick over here, which determines how often it harvests something, works much slower if it's full on sludge. And so one thing we need to do real quick here is actually set up a way of getting the sludge out of the harvester, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a drum from Extra Utilities, which is kind of like just a massive tank that can hold up to 256,000 millibuckets, or the equivalent of 256 buckets worth of any liquid. You can also make a bedrockium drum if you want to later on down the line. These things are a little more expensive, requiring some bedrockium, but can hold up to 65 million millibuckets, or 65,536 buckets worth of any liquid in the game. I'm going to stick to the normal drum for this. We need 6 steel or refined iron. We're going to use refined iron, some weird pressure plates, as well as some cauldrons. We're going to need 2 of these. So let me quickly go ahead and actually I'm just going to go request some iron plates. I don't know why I thought I would use the metal farmer there. I haven't used the metal farmer from Industrial Craft 2 in quite some time. Let's just go ahead and request 14 of those. That should be enough to get us the 2 cauldrons required for the 2 drums. And it's been so long since I could aware that this thing is actually almost done. We are almost there and almost have this resonant machine frame. The system's done a pretty good job. The lasers have stayed pretty much entirely blue the whole way through. I did replace some flux ducts down here. We did have one, we had like 1 or 2 leadstone flux ducts. We kind of still do over there, but we had 1 or 2 leadstone flux ducts here, which were kind of affecting how fast these 3 could go, and they were occasionally dropping to like green and yellow. But I've replaced that, and since then they've been running pretty much perfectly at full blue speed. And if we come over here to the high pressure boiler tank, you can see it's creeping up very slowly to 1000 degrees Celsius, at which point it will be providing as the maximum amount of steam that it can to all of the steam dynamos. And you can see right now, despite the fact that we are running this operation here, which is using a ton of power right now, the steam boiler is actually still gaining steam in its internal buffer, which is pretty cool as well. So let's see, this thing is still making us all of the iron plates. As far as steel goes, we should be pretty much good to go with the refined iron. Yeah, we've got 49 of that, that's fine. And then in terms of the weighted pressure plates, they are, of course, super easy to make. We can just go ahead and craft up 4 of those, like so. Like, here we go. We need actually 2 more of those. Let's go ahead and craft those up as well. And once we've got our 14 iron plates, we can use those to make our 2 cauldrons like so, and then use those cauldrons to make ourselves some drums. Nice. Now, we should just be able to stick these down directly on top of the harvesters. They should automatically output to the top, and now they should be running at a much faster rate than they were before. You can see the idle tick is going pretty quickly, and it's actually taking a bit of a toll on the energy there, and you can see it's tearing through all of the crops that we have here. And basically, the setup that we have right here is we've got a transfer node. I did put some speed upgrades in because we are getting a lot of dyes coming through the system, and you can see right now, even with all of these speed upgrades in, I don't know why we're still getting seeds occasionally. This one is getting a little backed up with wheat seeds. I do still have a wheat farm, but I've replaced it with a crop stick farm, so we don't have to do any planting, and it shouldn't really be providing any seeds. So I'm assuming they might just be like excess seeds that were stuck in the harvester from beforehand. We don't really need wheat for the system that we're setting up, but like I mentioned earlier, it might just be nice to have it kind of lying around. The exact same is true over here on this side. We got the same thing, transfer node, 20 speed upgrades, taking it around and putting it into the back of these caches. And as of right now, we've got 1,500 wheat, 1,200 pink dye, and about 1,000 of everything else. These dyes are doing a little bit worse for wear because I did leave the upgrade out of this one for a little while before realizing I had to put it back in. But the whole system is working, and the fertilizers aren't even on yet, so it's doing a surprisingly good job without the fertilizers, mostly because now when you harvest these, you get 4 dyes from every single one, thanks to the fact that they have that growth and gain upgrades. So let's go ahead and throw you in there. How far away are we from having this Resonant machine frame? It probably doesn't look, it doesn't look like there's all that much time left, but if we look over here in the energy panel, we're at 49,770,000 RF, so we've got about 300,000, about 200,000 redstone flux left to go, which is not a whole lot. And so what I want to start working on now is actually making the culinary generators themselves. So if we look at the recipe here in NEI, to make a normal culinary generator, there are 3 different types. The normal culinary generator, which is this one here, and then there are 2 more types, and they kind of work like the solar panels that we did earlier on in the series. We made this solar panel over here, and this one produces 64 redstone flux per tick, but we made it by crafting together 64 of the other solar panels that produce 1 redstone flux per tick, and the culinary generators kind of work in a similar way. There is the base culinary generator, which is made using some firm tofu, 2 furnaces, 1 piston, 2 redstone, and an iron gear, but there is then an 8x culinary generator, which you can craft by combining up 8 of the previous tier of culinary generators, and basically this acts as 8 culinary generators in one, so it produces 8 times as much power, but also consumes 8 times as much food. And then finally the 64x culinary generator, which takes 8 of the 8x culinary generators, hence 64 of the normal base culinary generators, and again produces 64 times the amount of energy, but also uses 64 times the amount of fuel. So really, these higher tiers are mostly just for compacting your builds, making it so that you can fit a bunch of stuff into a smaller space. And I would like to make preferably some of the second tier culinary generators, because if you look at the item in the middle here that is required in order to craft 8 normal culinary generators into the higher tier 8x culinary generator, we need a transfer node of energy, and to make this, we need a QED. Now, the reason I'm not going to go for the highest tier of culinary generator here is because for this, we need bedrockium, and to get bedrockium, we can smelt mox fuel. I did not know that was a thing. I assumed, we could actually do this. I assumed, much like it is in older mod packs, you would have to craft up, usually you have to smelt octuple compressed cobblestone, which is a block that contains 43 million cobblestone, and I didn't really feel like doing that. Now that I know that we just need to get some mox fuel, which we can probably do once we get our UU matter up and running, I might actually invest in some of the 64x culinary generators, but like I said, for now, we're going to focus on the tier 2 8x ones, and to make this, we need the QED here, and the QED, if we look at the recipe here, requires the Resonant machine frame, which is why I need this. It also requires 4 ender-infused obsidian, 1 eye of ender, 1 redstone chipset, and then 2 double layer capacitors. So thankfully, ender infused obsidian is super easy to make. It's 4 obsidian and 1 ender pearl, so we can do that really easily. We've got all of our obsidian sat over here in this cache. Let's go ahead and take that, and then let's take I think just 1 ender pearl will do us, to be fair, because we only need 4 ender infused obsidian to make the QED, and you make them in batches of 4. So if we come back over to our crafting station, we can stick the ender pearl in the middle, we can stick the obsidian all around it like so. That gets us the 4 ender infused obsidian. The capacitors are going to be a little bit harder to do, because for these, we need 2 basic capacitors. So in total, we're going to need 4 basic capacitors to get the 2 double layer capacitors. So let me go ahead and request 2 of the basic, or 4 of the basic ones from our system here. There we go, 1, 2, 3, 4. Request that. But this is where things get a little bit tricky, because now we need to make the energetic alloy here, and also blazing electron tubes, which are super easy to make. But the tricky bit is making the energetic alloy, because for this, we actually have to make an alloy smelter or an arc furnace from immersive engineering. And for any of you who have ever seen the arc furnace, it is a bit of a pain to make, and it is a massive machine. And so instead, we are going to make the alloy smelter from Ender.io. And if we look at the recipe here, the alloy smelter is not the nicest recipe in the world, but now that we have all of our auto crafting with logistics pipes, making all of these industrial craft 2 machines is going to be a lot easier than it previously was. So I'm pretty sure my system still doesn't know how to make aluminum. It doesn't, but we do have 2 aluminum blends. So let me go ahead and request that, and I'll smelt that up manually. At that point, we can then request a machine chassis, because it knows how to make the rest of the stuff there. Crushed obsidian we can do fairly easily by just throwing some obsidian into our crusher back here. We should probably try and automate this as well with the logistics pipe system, just so we don't have to go over there every time that we want some crushed obsidian. This is completely done. We now have the Resonant machine frame, so that is going to be ready and raring to go for when we actually create the QED itself. Let's go ahead and smelt up some aluminum in there. Once that's done, let's just go ahead and stick it into any of these golden chests on the end. For now, I will put it right about there, and then we can come over here. We can request a machine chassis. Once that's done, we need an induction furnace, an electric furnace. We need 2 electric furnaces and an induction furnace. So 2 of those. What's an induction furnace need? It's an electric furnace. We need 3 electric furnaces. Oh my goodness. Okay, guys, I'm gonna go away. I'm gonna make all 3 of these industrial craft 2 machines, and I'll be back in a second. and a little bit of auto crafting later, we now have everything we need to make the alloy smelter, which for now I'm going to put right about here where my rolling machine just was. And so now we've got this, we can make ourselves some of those energized ingots to make the QED. And if memory serves me right, they're made with glowstone, I think redstone, and I want to say copper. Let me look up the recipe here real quick for the QED. We need these double layer capacitors, which need energetic alloys, which are redstone, gold, and glowstone. So we need gold, not copper. Okay, let's take some gold, and let's throw all of those together in the alloy smelter. The alloy smelter, by default, is pretty slow, so this could take a couple of seconds. You can see there, it's fairly slow at making all this stuff. You can put capacitors in here to increase the speed. I don't think you can put a normal capacitor in there, but if I type in capacitor and hover over the double layer one, it says increases energy storage and speed / range of machines, and the same is true for the octadic capacitor as well. So if you had either a double layer or an octadic capacitor, you could put that into this slot here, and it would speed up any Ender IO machine. Actually, all of them have that little slot there, apart from the VAT. Ignore that. The slice and splice does. Most Ender IO machines do, and I think the sag mill over here should as well. So you can use that to speed those up, much like we use the augments to speed up these thermal expansion machines. How many of those do we need? I think we're going to need 4 for the QED, because we need 2 double layer capacitors. Each one of the double layer capacitors requires 2 of these energetic alloys. We do also need this blazing electron tube. We do not currently have a thermonic fabricator up here, so I am going to have to go downstairs and kind of interrupt the flow of one of the thermonic fabricators that is over here. Thankfully, we don't use these all too often, especially some of the ones that are a little further down. Where is my sword? Let me just get rid of this joker. There we go. Some of these ones further down here, like, for example, this one, which is actually doing nothing, is never used. So let's go ahead and just put those in like so. It is going to require a little bit of glass, which is a problem I've been having with the thermonic fabricators. You have to constantly keep their liquid glass-like intake up here up to snuff, and they don't really have a nice, easy way that I know of doing that. If you do know a way that you can get it in there automatically, please do let me know. I just kind of put a stack in here every so often and hope it will work. But this should heat up and should give me the 2 electron tubes that we need there. Other than that, we pretty much have everything else, and Eye of Ender is of course super easy to make. We can just grab ourselves an Ender Pearl and combine it up with some blaze powder. The redstone chipset again is of course super easy to make. We've got a bunch of those lying around in our storage drawers. Is this alloy smelter done making me 4 of those? Almost. It's at 69% on that there. Let's go ahead and just grab one of these real quick so we're ready. And also let's quickly grab 1 blaze powder, and wow, we really need to clear out our inventory again because it is getting ridiculously cramped in here, but we are getting there slowly but surely. I was going to put some stuff in, but we need to do the capacitors first. So let's take you, let's put those in here and here with the normal capacitors either side like that. Now all we're missing is the blazing electron tubes, which should be almost done, and they are good stuff. I'm going to take out the redstone here just so they don't make another batch of those, because I don't really want to use any more of my blaze powder or redstone making more of these when we don't necessarily need them just yet. We probably will make a few more of these double layer capacitors just so we can go ahead and speed up machines like the alloy smelter in the near future. But for now, let's see about making this. We want to put the Ender infused obsidian in the corners there, Eye of Ender at the top. We want to put the double layer capacitor either side like so, redstone chipset at the bottom, and then finally the resonant machine frame, which took way too long to craft, in the middle here. And there we go, we get ourselves a QED. Right now it stands for what? Quad Erat Demonstradum. The name of this, by the way, changes all of the time. So for example, if I was to go and put this down, I'm going to put it like over here, I think, for the time being. The name of the device you see right now is called the quantum entanglement device. The name changes whenever you look at it. Like if you walk that quark electron device, it will change all the time. And right now this thing does absolutely nothing. We could put items in here, but it would not craft them because it doesn't run on normal redstone flux power. Instead, you have to power it with ender flux crystals, which we're going to make next episode because this episode has already gone on way too long. So what we'll do, guys, is next episode we'll come back. We will finally automate the process of turning all of this stuff into epic bacon. We'll craft up some of those culinary generators. We'll get the QED up and running with those ender flux crystals. But for now, thanks for watching. If you did enjoy the video, as always, be sure to like. It really does help out a lot. Leave a comment down below, and I will see you guys next time.